Hello, this is Malorian from Warseer, and this is going to be the first episode of something I'm going to call the Orc Tactical Team. And what this is going to be is just, I'm hoping a weekly type segment thing where I'm just going to talk about the tactics mainly of Warhammer Fantasy. So in this first one here, I just want to kind of talk about briefly about tactical gaming in general, and what tactical gaming is opposed to something like, say, snakes and ladders, where you're just rolling dice and whatever happens is not really under your control. It's whatever the dice rolled, that's what happens, as opposed to something like chess, where it is completely under your control. Whatever you decide to do, what tactics, what skill level you have, decides whether you win or lose. And I think I want to say right here too that if you're starting Warhammer Fantasy, the very first thing you should do is start playing some chess. From there, you can pull out all the basic strategies that you're going to be using during the game. Things like thinking ahead, knowing what moves you want to, what type of plan you want to be working on, just looking at kind of the greater good idea, trying to bait with smaller, less important units to take out their bigger ones, stuff like that. So if you haven't played chess and you're getting into Warhammer, I'm basically saying go play some chess. So the next thing I want to talk about is just what is the main components of tactical gaming. Of course, there's tactics. When we're talking about fantasy, we're making armies, so we're making army lists. Another thing is just luck. So what really is the biggest components when you're talking about this tactical gaming? Well, really, if you think about it, if you had somebody that had the best list with the best tactics against somebody with the worst list and he had no tactics, if all the dice went the way of the person with no tactics, he's still going to win. So really, if you're looking at like a pie chart and trying to decide what has the biggest component, luck is going to be the majority, unfortunately. It's a game based on dice, that's the way it is. So next up is what's a bigger component, tactics or your list? And this can be a huge debate, but really the way that I see it, for at least in fantasy, is that if you had a person that had, let's say, the best list but the worst tactics against the person with the worst list but the best tactics, that person with the best tactics can still win in fantasy. You can have the nobblers that flank the Khorne knights and beat them. So in that, the minority of that pie that was tactics or a list, tactics is the bigger part. Some people might argue with that, but that's really the reason why I'm doing this, is because I'm kind of tired of people blaming things on the army list, ignoring the tactics. And if you just go and try and think and spend more time trying to think of what you could do to win, you're also going to have more fun. It's just the way it's going to be. So the next thing I want to talk about is just the different parts of tactics, and I think there's four main ones. The first stage of tactics I would call either priority or math tactics, and that's really just kind of knowing the rules, knowing the math and the probability behind what's going to happen. So knowing you're going to use this unit against that unit. That's your first level. The next level would be something more of physical tactics, using a screen. Knowing that, if I put this unit in front of here, I can guard them. If I put this unit behind the woods, the war machines can't hit me. The third level tactics I would call more of a synergy tactics. So that's something more like, I want to keep my army together so that it's all within range of the general, or something like, I got this block of orcs that's going to take the charge, and then after on my turn I can counter with the chariot. Things like that where they're working together. And finally, the fourth type of tactics, and the one that I think is most important, is maybe not most important, but the part that a lot of people don't push and try and strive for, is the psychological tactics. So these are things like, as easy as either as baiting or stuff like that. Anything that's making your opponent do something that's, it's tricking them. It's, has nothing to do with math, has nothing to do with that. You're fooling them into doing something because they think it's good. So an example that I used to do, and I'll be in later episodes, I'll talk about each of these stages, but a good example of psychological tactics is in the old edition of Lizardmen. They used to have the Slann and Temple Guard were not immune to panic, so I would move them up to be charged, and of course the opponent would love to try and charge this unit. I would flee, and who would ever think that somebody's going to flee with their Temple Guard and Slann? But they're going to be rallying on a cold 10, and meanwhile they've failed their march, and I can blast them with magic and shooting my turn again. So it's just stuff like that. So I think I should also say that one of the reasons why I want to be doing these and where I'm coming from is that I've been playing for, oh, I don't know, 10 years, probably more. I started with 40k and then I moved on to fantasy. And the first fantasy army that I started playing was Bretonnians. And after I caught on and I started getting some wins, I'd have a lot of people that would complain and saying, "Oh, you're going to win just because you're playing Bretonnians. I mean, you outcharge me, you hit so hard, that's why you win." And it was just, I try to tell people, like try and control the movement phase, use some tactics, throw out some throwaway units, and they just wouldn't catch on. So I've been doing my best on Warseer to try and to teach people, and I'm hoping this series of podcasts might do the same thing. So anyway, this is basically that first covering of the bases of the first episode. I'm going to try and do these every single week. We'll see how that works, and hope you like them and hope you watch them. Okay, bye.